The UK appears to be going through something. The situation there appears to be much worse than in the past years, to the point where some of my ex-Muslim friends are nervous to speak about Islam openly because of the harm it can bring them. Take Lubna, a British Pakistani YouTuber. She doesn't even criticize Islam directly. She talks about social issues within Muslim communities. She's still Muslim. She even once criticized ex-Muslims, and we discussed it openly on my channel. I saw your video where you talked about the good, the bad, and the ugly with ex-Muslims. And you mentioned like some of the bad is that there's some fear mongering and there's people that are trying to, maybe we can talk about that. Like what are your concerns there? And then also you did mention something about financial gain, right? So maybe we can talk about your concerns there.
Yes, so I would say that with someone like me who does have doubts, I have been interested in what the ex-Muslims have to say, because obviously they've gone through a journey, and like someone like you who was devout, you were inviting people to dawah as well, right? Which I've never done in my life because I was brought up in a liberal family. So I have been interested. However, I must say that some of the content by some of the ex-Muslims I found toxic.
Yet even she has faced threats.
I wanted to give you guys an update on the situation. So some of you guys may have noticed that across both of my YouTube channels, I have taken down videos, the majority of the videos. And my life is basically at risk. I'm gonna cut to the chase. My life is at risk. I've taken my videos down on both of my channels. I've just left literally a few of them. And I'm still shaking from last night's experience. I've involved the police. So I am shaking still. I've had a very sleepless night, and this will be an emotional live. So when I started this YouTube channel, and then I was surprised that people want to hear my voice and they are interested as well. And then I built a community here. I've done public lives with you guys. Sadly, the tolerance levels within the community, the Muslim and Pakistani community, is generally very, very low. We all know this. I was listening to the feedback, and the feedback was we're not condemning it enough. And that's all I was doing. I've never ever criticized a religion. I've never done any of that kind of stuff. But sadly, because the type of people I'm trying to get through to, they have low tolerance, I don't think it's worth it for me. I think I've done my part. And, you know, I've tried my best to unite people. I've tried my best to be a bridge between the different communities. The psychology is very different. I've tried my best. That's all I could say. Although I did want to stick it out for this year. My son wanted me to get 100k subscribers. He wanted me to get the YouTube button. But, you know, I was like, the experience that I've had last night, where I had to call the police. And again, I can't give details. I can't continue talking about the stuff that I talk about. And frankly speaking, I don't want to.
That tells you something. If someone within the faith trying to offer constructive criticism isn't safe, what hope is there for the rest of us? I'm going to discuss what happened to Lubna and what's happening in the UK. Let's get into it. Okay, so while I don't agree with everything Lubna says, I defend her right to say it. That's what a free society means. It means the right to be wrong, the right to offend, the right to question. In a secular free society, everyone should have the right to speak their mind, even if distasteful. Lubna's not alone either. A few years ago, Mufti Abu Layth had Muslim thugs bust into his home and terrify his family. And since then, he's been taking it easy criticizing Islam. Before that, he was much more outspoken, boldly making claims such as the black stone was from a pagan idol and so on. Now he's pretty quiet, but can you blame him? In 2004, Dutch filmmaker Theo van Gogh was murdered for criticizing Islam. In the UK, while we haven't seen killings of that nature, the intimidation is very real. Salman Rushdie was forced into hiding for decades, and then decades later, Long after his book has been all but forgotten, he was stabbed on stage in 2022. The problem is not just about ex-Muslims like myself or Muslims like Lubna. It's about the broader intellectual landscape. Academics, authors, comedians, and even liberal Muslims are being pushed into silence. The unspoken message is you can criticize any religion except this one. You can mock Christianity on BBC. You can parody Hinduism on Netflix. You can ridicule Buddhism. But Islam, a single cartoon and people die. A single live stream and you're being threatened. So what's the solution? How do we prevent the further breakdown of this society? We have to continue to push back against the scourge of Islam and fundamentalism. And my way to do that is by injecting rationality, challenging the dogma itself. Because the root of the problem is Islam. Muslims are just a symptom, the fruits of the system. Why should Islam get special treatment? Why is this the only ideology protected by an informal blasphemy code? Some argue that this is just about respect for others, but respect is earned, not demanded. And tolerance doesn't mean agreement. If I can criticize capitalism, Christianity, or climate policies, but not the hadith of Bukhari, that's a problem. Quick pause and reminder to subscribe if you're new here. Thanks in advance. Criticism of Islam should not be a protected class. Okay, this isn't just a cultural issue. Laws and policies are creeping in too. Muslims in the UK want to be a protected class, a group of people whose religion and prophet are free from criticism or ridicule. How is this fair? Why is Islam the only hornet's nest that cannot be poked or kicked? If you're sitting at a pub and having a go at Islam, should you be worried that the police will show up at your door? I hope not. We aren't the only ones who are noticing the attempts made to squash any form of criticism against Islam. In this Telegraph article, Douglas Murray points out the realities of what can happen if Muslims get their way. If you were to notice that large crowds of Muslims in Bradford approved of the murder of Salman Rushdie, would you be guilty of Islamophobia? What if you noted that after the 2015 massacre at the offices of Charlie Hebdo, almost 80% of British Muslims said they found images depicting the founder of Islam as offensive, and 27% of British Muslims said that they had some sympathy for the motives of the jihadists who carried out the attack? This is the scene we find ourselves in, threats of violence and even potential blasphemy laws. What do I mean by blasphemy laws? I'm going to go through some of the tweets about this matter. Rupert Lowe MP says, this is Britain. We do not have blasphemy laws. And we must not have blasphemy laws. Burning the Quran is not a crime. Free speech means protecting the right to offend, including Islam. More politicians should have the courage to do so. And then Adnan Hussein MP said, what Rupert actually wants to say is, free speech means protecting the right to offend Muslims. Rupert Lowe says back, I do believe the right to offend Muslims must be protected. The right to offend anyone must be protected. And then Adnan Hussein MP says, it's deeply worrying, Rupert, that you invest so much energy into advocating for the right to offend a minority community. Free speech comes with limitations and protections. Clearly, you're not happy with those protections extending to a Muslim minority. Why? And this kind of goes back to the other response here by Dili Hussein, this Islamist that says, what are your thoughts on the freedom to burn the Torah? And I would say the same thing. Like, it happens, you have a right to do that. It would be a waste of money. If it's your Torah, you have a right to do that. Or the freedom to offend Jews by questioning mainstream narratives on the Holocaust. You'd have to be an idiot to do that. Although we do hear a lot of people doing that nowadays on Twitter. Anyways, going back to this, I really respect Razib Khan here. He doesn't consider himself an ex-Muslim. He's an atheist. I think he's from a Bengali background. He's a geneticist, and he said in the Muslim world, free speech is for them and not for the kuffar. Muslims can talk about idolaters and unbelievers all they want, but the dhimmi better stay in their place. They're trying to import these norms into the West in different clothes. Much respect for him calling this out for what it is. And this guy said, bit willing, freedom to offend against any religion is a pretty consistent common law right, and one the High Court jealously and ferociously protects. Surprising to see an MP uncomfortable with that, and presumably more comfortable with de facto blasphemy provisions. Now, he responded to that and said, I'm uncomfortable with racism. Now, David Wood said, I'm uncomfortable with politicians thinking Islam is a race. Pakistani Cafe says, how is critiquing a belief system that's followed by people all over the world racism, right? And then Razib Khan says, no, you are uncomfortable with blasphemy. Don't lie. Those are some excellent tweets, and I wanted to share those. So what do? We speak louder, we speak smarter, we challenge the ideas at the roots, not just the behavior of Muslims, but the text, the teachings, the dogma itself. That's where the problem lies. Because Muslims are not the disease, Islam is. And until we're allowed to critique the system that produces this behavior, we're just treating symptoms. This is a moment of reckoning. People of all backgrounds, ex-Muslim, Muslim, Christian, atheist, must stand up and say no idea is above scrutiny, especially not one that inspires censorship, violence, and fear. Because if we're all expected to sit quietly while one religion silences the rest of us, then freedom of speech in the UK is already dead. Either all ideas are open to challenge or none are. Thank you for watching. We had a lot of patrons join the channel and support us after I announced I lost my job. Really appreciate all of you. Thank you. And if you'd like to join our mission and to tackle the dogma of Islam, the root of many of the problems we are finding today in the UK and other countries, we could use your help. This is Mr. Friendly Ex-Muslim signing out.